Welcome everyone to cooking class with Tronix PCs, where today we are going to see if you can actually cook a meal on a CPU. So let's get cooking. So for this test we have a range of cooking utensils and food items. So we've got our spatula, we've got some cold chicken, some bell peppers, and then we're going to try to boil some water all on top of a CPU. So let's see if this works. So the motherboard that we're going to be torturing for this test is this lovely purple and gold themed motherboard. This is actually the board, CPU, and memory that came out of the Great Value case that we built the Sleeper PC in. So this is the original components for that. It's some sort of Intel Pentium something. I think that's a single core CPU, I want to say. And we've got about, let's see, 128 megabyte stick and a 512 megabyte stick of just DDR. This was running at a whopping 266 megahertz. That's pretty slow, so not too worried about damaging this board, which is why we're using it for this test. So I also plugged this CPU fan into the CPU fan header, just so the board doesn't freak out or something that the fan's not working. This will also allow us to know that the motherboard is actually turned on, and so I guess let's turn this thing on and get cooking. Alright, there we go. Thing powers up. This CPU fan is really loud, but man, that thing pushes out some air. We've also got a little red indicator LED on the board. The CPU is actually getting really hot already. Wow. Okay. Let's stick a bell pepper on there. Not sure if it's hot enough to actually cook anything yet, but I mean, it's pretty hot to the touch, so I hear the pepper sizzling now. Yeah, that thing's sizzling away. Can we flip it over? Oh yeah, that thing's definitely cooking. Oh, and it just shut itself off. I'm just surprised that this pepper is actually sizzling here. Let's see if we can boot this thing back up again. Unless it just killed itself. It smells ridiculously hot. Probably ain't a great sign. I don't see anything smoking or anything yet, though. Pepper's definitely hot. Doesn't have that nice saute on there yet, though. So we got it cool enough that the board is back up and running again. CPU's heating up once again. This time I'm going to stick a piece of chicken on there, and we're going to see if we can fry this thing up. It's already cooked chicken, but it's cold, so see if we can get a nice sear on there or something. I don't know. Doesn't want to stay on there. CPU is definitely hitting a temperature limit of some sort, which is why it shut off before, so I might have to figure out a way to keep it just cool enough that it'll cook food but still get hot enough, or not get too hot. Yeah, see, there it goes again. Chicken started sizzling a little bit, but the CPU just got too hot once again. Again, it smells like hot electronics, but chicken smells fantastic. Got some nice seasonings on there. Oh yeah. CPU's hot. I'm gonna stick a fan above the CPU and see if that'll keep it cool enough to stay on. Alright, so we've got a fan aimed at the CPU. Let's see if this works now. Alright, so we've got some decently cool air blowing on there. See, the thing is, I don't want to cool the CPU down too much so that it gets too cool, because we still want to cook the food on there. CPU's still getting warm. Very, very warm. Alright, let's put the chicken back on there. And the system shut off again. So CPU's just getting a little too hot. The chicken is actually warming up though. The bottom's obviously very warm, but throughout the chicken it's actually getting pretty warm here. Okay, so we're going to have to try something else to keep the CPU just cool enough. I might have a couple ideas in mind. So this bad boy right here is a passive CPU cooler. It has no fan on it whatsoever. It's just cooled with the heatsink and heat pipes here. So I'm thinking this copper plate right here gets extremely hot, but the CPU still stays cool enough because all the heat is traveling up through the fin stack here. So if we put the cooler on here, maybe we can cook the food on top of the copper plate instead of the actual CPU itself. So I'm still going to have the CPU fan plugged in just in case. I'm not going to put any thermal paste on this. If it shuts down again, I probably will have to. Generally, setting a CPU cooler on there for short-term use is usually okay, so we're going to try it here. So the cooler is touching the CPU, so we're going to turn this on again. Alright, so everything is booting up once again. The copper is still cold to the touch. I'm going to just kind of hold it tight on here just in case. Yeah, this might take a little bit to warm up actually, so I'm going to leave it sit here just for a little bit. Alright, so nothing's shut off yet. We've got a really hot copper plate here, but the CPU is still on. The fin stack is still pretty cool. So we're going to lay some peppers on here. See if these will actually cook. So guys, this thing is still running. Cooler's pretty warm, pretty hot, but the thing hasn't shut off yet, so it's definitely probably right around the correct temperature just to not shut off. But as we can see, we'll use our little spatula here since we've got it. Starting to get a nice sear on the bottom of the peppers here. Oh, that one's not wanting to flip over. It's not like crazy hot, like it's sizzling or anything, but these are definitely like very, very slowly cooking actually, which is honestly pretty cool. So I've taken the peppers off, and let's put a piece of chicken on here. This is a nice flat chunk. See if that does anything. Honestly, beside the copper pipe is almost hotter. I'm going to put another piece like just off to the side. Actually, maybe this side's even a little hotter. I'm going to go like right there. See if that does anything. So far this doesn't really seem to be doing much. The chicken smells nice. It's getting warmer. Yeah, I can't even like hold my fingers on there for too long. That copper plate is really hot. This piece is definitely warming up. Somehow this aluminum part that's not even in contact with the CPU is almost hotter than the copper. Not sure if that has something to do with the difference between aluminum and copper, but it's kind of weird. But yeah, I guess we'll just leave this on here a little longer and see what happens. After a little bit, chicken's warming up. Definitely not cooking as much as the... Actually, this piece is actually pretty hot. That's pretty good. This piece not so much, but it's definitely not cooking as nicely as the peppers did. So unfortunately, this metal bowl, this is the smallest bowl I could find, won't be able to fit on the CPU with the heatsink and everything there, so I'm honestly just going to take the cooler off, dump a little water on there, and see what happens to it. Alright, so pop the cooler off. This will be interesting without trying to destroy the motherboard. Oh yeah, that's a toasty boy. Look at that, it's actually boiling. We're boiling water on a CPU. So I wonder if that's actually going to cool it off enough, though, because this is some cold water here, so it's like really steaming off of there, actually. Look at that. That's actually pretty cool. Definitely got some water on the motherboard, but it doesn't seem to be affecting it in any way. I mean, it hasn't shut off yet, so honestly, seems to be pretty resilient to it, I guess. But yeah, that thing is definitely pretty hot. Don't want to get too close to it. I can feel the heat coming off of that thing. That is honestly pretty cool. So, shut off again, but I found that if I remove one of the RAM sticks, I can actually fit this bowl right here to where it's actually touching the CPU. So we're going to see if that's enough to heat this bad boy up. Alright, so we've got power to the motherboard here, because we've got the red LED indicator light there. Literal definition of water cooling, which I think is pretty funny. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, this thing has to carry some sort of heat away from the CPU, I would imagine. I mean, there's a lot of metal here, and it's full of water, so I don't know, about half feel it heating up already. The bowl, just not heating up, but just very, very mildly warm. So the water is not boiling or anything, but what impresses me is that it's still cold, first of all. The bowl is mildly warm, and it's actually keeping the CPU cool enough that the board is staying on. As you can see, we've got our little red LED right here. So this thing's actually cooling the CPU. So it's literally water cooling. So we've gotten some kind of interesting results from this. So technically, yes, you can cook food on a CPU. It doesn't cook very fast. It does cook eventually and at least warms it up, but it doesn't really cook it, I guess. And it's a very, very slow process, at least on a single-core CPU like this. I would have expected an old CPU like this to actually heat up pretty quickly, just because these old CPUs have a pretty high TDP, but I guess I was proven wrong. I'd kind of about half like to try this on a higher performance CPU, like a quad-core, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, so I hope you guys enjoyed this very interesting test. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.